Great. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Hannah Smith, and
Marketa.
and in this video, we are going to introduce you to branch issue 8, which is all about finding beauty in the imperfect. Before we do that, let's just tell you a little bit about what Branch magazine is. Branch is an online magazine written by and for people who dream of a just and sustainable internet for all. It's edited and funded by the Green Web Foundation, and that's a project that's run in collaboration and behalf of an organization called climateaction.tech. The fun thing about Branch magazine, when you visit, you'll notice that it's actually a demand responsive website. And what that means is that it is a website that adapts to and reflects the physical infrastructure of the internet and the energy behind it. So today, when we look at the website, it's blue, which is representing a moderate carbon intensity. On some other days you'll visit and you'll see that it's green, and you'll find that the pictures are easier to see. And on some other days, when there's more fossil fuels on the grid, you'll see that the website is orange and that you'll have to click in order to see each of the images. They don't load by default. So it's a fun experiment to get across to people the idea that the internet runs on energy that comes from somewhere, and that we all need to be more mindful of that fact. Branch has been around since autumn 2020. You can see the first issue was published back then. And since then, there have been 7 issues. Now, we are going to talk to you today about Branch issue 8, the latest edition. But let us just say that all the articles in those previous editions are brilliant and well worth your time. So there's a wealth of really interesting writing all about a just and sustainable internet for you to enjoy. But let's tell you more about our project and what Marketa and I have been working on, which is Branch issue 8. This issue is all about finding beauty in the imperfect, and we're going to tell you a whole bunch more about that in a moment. But before we do that, let's just tell you a little bit about ourselves and the organizations that we represent. So Marketa, I've been talking a lot so far, so I might hand over to you to introduce yourself first, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So my name is Marketa. I'm the digital sustainability lead at Whole Grain Digital, which is a London-based agency specializing in low carbon, accessible and high performant websites. I have a very deep interest in harnessing the power of storytelling for positive change, and I'm really very passionate about climate activism. At the beginning of COVID, I did a climate reality training with Al Gore to become a climate reality leader and help people understand the basics of climate science and the urgent need for our collective action. And additionally, I volunteer with the climateaction.tech community, where I co-organized a TEDx event as part of the global TEDx Countdown initiative in 2020. Back to you, Hannah.
Thanks, Marketa. Oh, wow, you've got such an interesting background. It's one of the many reasons I've loved working with you on this project. Well, anyway, let me introduce myself. My name is Hannah Smith. I'm Director of Operations for Green Web Foundation, which you've heard mentioned a couple of times. My role as Director of Operations puts a really strong emphasis on fostering a joyful and effective delivery culture. Part of my role there means that I provide technical and operational leadership on some of our open source tool suite, including the Green Web Directory, Branch magazine, this website that we're talking about, and some of our commercial services too. Outside of my day job at Green Web Foundation, I'm co-founder of a localized meetup community called Green Tech Southwest, and I've also been a long-term volunteer with climateaction.tech as well. Fun fact about me, I live in a temperate rainforest in Exmoor National Park. And if you've never heard of temperate rainforests before, they're quite fun, and I encourage you to go and find out a little bit more about them. But for now, that's us introduced. Marketa and I wanted to tell you a little bit of a story about how we ended up working on Branch issue 8 and why we felt that the theme of finding beauty in the imperfect felt so important to reflect within this issue of Branch. So Marketa, do you think we're ready to head into the editor's letter?
I think so.
All right, cool. So I've drawn the short straw, I suppose, or the long straw. I'm not sure which way it is of the editor's letter. So let me tell you guys, or guys and girls, a story about this issue. So this issue of branch originates from our shared place of frustration. This is a frustration that we're all holding ourselves back from making the internet a better place for everyone. And that's because the illusion of perfectionism can loom just too large, can catch us sometimes like a rabbit in the headlights, rooting us firmly to the spot, whilst danger is hurtling towards us in the form of runaway climate change. And it leaves us unsure which decisions are going to be the best ones. Thinking, oh, okay, surely someone else will be able to do this better than we ever could. Maybe our efforts are unlikely to make any useful impact at all. So all things that Marketa and I think about. But there's one thing that we have absolute certainty about, and that is that if you are working in any form of sustainability, thoughts like that need to be challenged. They deserve to be challenged. So Marketa and I have known each other for some time, and well ahead of working on this issue of branch together, we often found ourselves talking about how we overcome thoughts like these. And we both have a shared context of seeking to build improved digital emission measurement methodologies in our day jobs. And we're often dealing with the pushback and criticism of them. Criticism is valid, but sometimes not always well intentioned or well placed. So we found ourselves in a position of having to counsel ourselves to keep at it, to keep finding ways to progress among the imperfections and setbacks of what we're working on, and especially on those hard days. And I'm sure you'll all relate to what those hard days can feel like sometimes. And we have to keep counseling ourselves, or find ourselves keeping counseling to keep striving to create something meaningful to us, something that we, as individuals, Marketa and Hannah, could regard as a type of beauty, even if perhaps not everyone around us sees it that way. And we would have regular calls, and we found ourselves ending calls with using this shorthand of, hey, Marketa, hey, Hannah, remember to find some beauty in that imperfect today. It kind of became a little bit of a catchphrase for us. And so during this process, somewhere along the way, we kind of realized something else. We realized that we're not alone in these struggles. Anyone working to create meaningful change like this is probably also likely to feel frustrated. Maybe they're manifested in slightly different ways, but those feelings are probably there. And we were thinking, well, perhaps maybe it would be helpful to see how others tackle these problems in this field, in different fields. How do they find the will to keep at this? How do they find the will to keep finding beauty in these imperfections? And we wondered, what could we and others learn from the wider tech community and the wider sustainability community? What other practices are out there that might inspire and guide us? And most importantly, I think, speaking personally for Marketa and myself, where do we look for hope in the face of increasingly severe climate change? It is out there. We've just got to find it. So this is a little bit the origin story of how the concept of openly examining how you might find beauty in the imperfect, especially within this context of creating a just and sustainable, a more humane internet, emerged. So issue 8 is above all an expression of the thoughts that linger in the minds of many and that perhaps are spoken aloud by too few. In this issue, here we can highlight the importance of going back to basics, especially in today's world overrun by screens and speed, to envisage what the internet really should bring to humanity. And accepting along the way that these subjective answers are imperfectly beautiful in themselves. So this issue is an ode to this exploration and the many, many fascinating perspectives that we found along the way. We really, really hope that this themes issue will resonate with you like it has for us maybe it won't resonate perfectly, but maybe it will connect you to some of the 35 or so authors and other collaborators that shared their thoughts with us on this topic. And through sharing them with us, have shared them by extension with you, all of you who are going to enjoy this issue. So before we tell you a little bit more about what is in the issue, more specifically, Marketa and I would like to say to you that we really hope that you feel the beauty of human connection through this online magazine. So that's a little bit about issue 8. I'm going to hand over to Marketa in a second, and she's going to talk you through all the amazing pieces that we've put together. And I'll just preface that before Marketa starts to say that as we put these individual articles of this issue together and we step back, we realize something else. We've been realizing lots of things along this journey. We realize that the theme of finding beauty in the imperfect can be viewed not only as a mindset, but also as a loose journey, guiding us on how to build a just, sustainable, and more humane web. So the grouping of these articles reflects that, and Marketa is going to talk you through that now.
Thank you, Hannah. That was amazing. So that brings us to the first part of the welcome section of issue 8, the editor's letter. Thank you, Hannah, again for reading that so beautifully. So furthermore, in the welcome section, we share the quick reflections of 10 members of the climateaction.tech community who reflected on our prompt, what is imperfectly beautiful in climate tech for you? So this is a great way to ease yourself into the topic and viewpoints that come up and are discussed in more detail throughout. And you might also consider taking a look at our Branch Issue 8 playlist, which is the first ever playlist of Branch that Hannah came up with. And I'm really, really proud of that idea. Well, I'm proud of your idea, but like I'm very supportive of that to just get you in the mood. So there are 40 songs that have been suggested by the readers of Branch that help them to keep being motivated, to be catalysts for change. After all, music is a great way to create a sense of connection and motivation for the body and mind to take action. So do go and listen to the playlist on Spotify if you like. Now that brings me to the first category, that is meaningful connections. The first article explores if we should prioritize human-driven processes over tech fixes to build stronger information ecosystems based on trust and meaningful connections. The second article shares a tool for adopting a more constructive approach to climate action, the butterfly metaphor, for transformative social change. Next up, we have an article by Emmanuel Veras exploring how the lack of network infrastructure in the Amazon limits digital access for indigenous and traditional communities while supporting environmentally harmful enterprises. And finally, this article considers how we can apply lessons and patterns from the accessibility movement to the emerging digital sustainability movement, so a really important piece. Next up, we have solarpunk and speculative future as the next category. And for those of you who haven't heard about solarpunk, like me at the beginning of this journey, this project, solarpunk is an artistic movement that envisions and works towards building a sustainable future that is interconnected with nature and community. So that's just to give you a little bit of background. And under this category, you can find this article, which examines the parallels and divergences between Butler's fictional world and our current reality, offering a call to imagine the future that we want. Next up, we explore the imperfect answers arising from asking what we can do to radically cut down on our spiraling CPU habit. Next, we share some ideas on how the internet can support a future of regeneration and symbiosis over extraction. Next up, Simon shares a solarpunk-inspired vision for how we and his company Crystal can create a world where business, technology, and nature are in harmony. Then Jo Lindsay shares an essay where she explores the imperfect questions that can still spark important conversations, including when to ask for pause. And finally, there's this lovely piece, Ministry of Imagination Manifesto by Rob Hopkins, which describes a manifesto that's based on a positive vision of the future and is appropriately ambitious to the scale of the challenges the world is facing right now. That brings us to the third category, design philosophy. So this category talks us through the options, how we might rethink design to create a just, sustainable, and a more humane web. So first up, we have this interview with a wonderful artist duo based in the Netherlands, Luna Maurer and Royal Wouters, who are creators of the Designing Friction project, where they challenge the digital culture's obsession with seamless experiences, and they advocate for intentional friction in design to create deeper human connections. Next up, Tom Greenwood shares and asks if the flawless digital world could take inspiration from the wabi-sabi philosophy, the Japanese philosophy, to incorporate imperfection and impermanence into digital designs. Next, Joanna investigates the real impact of e-waste through this immersive documentation of a community in India surrounded by the e-waste we design into our world. Next, Thorsten explores the concept of perfection, arguing that seeking it creates injustice and imbalance, and advocates for a paradigm shift towards imperfection and balance in design processes. And finally, Jessie Thompson explores how recognizing our connection to nature can guide us in designing a more sustainable and fair internet for all. And then brings us to the final category, the fourth one, perfection is the enemy of progress. So first up, we have a lovely piece by Michelle Barker, who explains what building a humane web means to her and how notions of perfectionism can stand in the way of developers building it. Then we also have this piece by Mary Pitt, who examines how Western medicine and tech are both chasing the holy grail of perfect data, why this risks trashing the planet, and what can be done about it. Next up, we have a little bit of real example from the digital sustainability world. And this is a case study and an interview from the team of Immediate. So this is an interview between the whole grain team and Immediate about working on a BBC Good Food website and how even small changes can make a really big difference in carbon and emission, in energy and emission savings. Then we have a lovely piece by Kim Leah Roth, who considers when we work towards a sustainable world and how taking small steps often might be more helpful than trying to change everything all at once. And finally, we have a lovely piece by Rory Brown, who explains a few simple principles that can liberate data from the perfection paradox, which can work for everyone. So Hannah and I would love to say a few thank yous to people who were absolutely essential for this process of creating Issue 8. And it's been a really lovely project that I'm very, very proud and very happy and grateful to have been a part of. So first of all, I would like to extend the thanks to you, Hannah, for all your support and your collaboration and your guidance on this journey. This would never have happened without you, and I'm so grateful to have been on this journey with you. I can't imagine this journey to be with anyone else but you, so I'm very grateful for that.
Well, thank you, Marketa, and I return the thanks and appreciation and gratitude for you. I think this project also would not have happened without you. So we were destined to come together to do this for sure.
Yes. Then we would also like to thank Michelle and Chris Adams from the Green Web Foundation, who are obviously essential pieces and parts of this project. It wouldn't be existing if it wasn't for them. I would personally like to thank Chris and Georgie from my team for making this happen and for allowing me to have this time, to spend this time with Hannah on this project that I feel is very important for the world of digital sustainability. Hannah and I would also really like to extend our thanks to Brett DeBoff, who has been so helpful with all the imagery throughout this issue 8. So thank you so much for all your help and all your guidance, finding the perfect images that reflect each piece. And obviously, we would like to thank Clara for the beautiful illustration that she created on a very tight deadline for this piece. So thank you so much for this. We couldn't be happier with the final result. And it just really beautifully reflects everything that is imperfect and beautiful at the same time. But finally, of course, we would like to thank all the 36 contributors who have helped us to make issue 8 what it is today. I'm not going to attempt to read all of you out loud again, but you know who you are. You will find your name in that list. And thank you so much again for being part of this journey. We really, really appreciate it. And that brings us to a close. Hannah, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Marketa. Thank you. It's just so wonderful to reflect on all of those pieces that have come together. And throughout this process, you and I have talked about creating a tapestry or a myriad of perspectives and responses to this question of what is perfectly and beautiful. What is imperfectly beautiful? And I think that as you hopefully, and as those of you watching this video read through this issue, you will find beauty in each thread, each article, different viewpoints, different perspectives. And we really can't wait to hear what you have to say, hear what your reflections are. And yeah, we hope to have some feedback from you all. So in terms of what next, if you do have some feedback, if you want to join in some discussions, we really heartily recommend joining the Climate.Action Tech community. If you're not already a part of that community, there's a very lively and vibrant Slack group. You can find both Marketa and I on there. And if you want to join, it is a free open community for everyone. You can head over to climateaction.tech. And lastly, Green Web Foundation, as we mentioned at the start, have been funding and publishing this website since 2020. We're a really small nonprofit of 6 people, and we care passionately about making the internet fossil free. And we would sign off by saying, we hope with all our hearts that you enjoy this issue. If you feel that you're in a position to help us keep publishing Branch and help us keep moving Branch forward so that it can remain state of the art. We've got a lot of ideas about how to push forward the carbon awareness or the demand responsiveness, but as any nonprofit and any small team, we're held back by finances. So if you're able to donate and help us keep up the good work, we would be really, really grateful. I think that leaves us, myself and Marketa, to say thank you if you made it to the end of this video, you legend. We hope you enjoy Branch issue 8. We hope you enjoy all the other issues as well. And we can't wait to hear from you and enjoy reading. And yeah, reach out to us if you have some feedback or some ideas for the future. Thanks again, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.